Lucas, a homeless boy of 12, sat on the crowded sidewalk, his thin body wrapped in a worn-out jacket that barely offered any warmth. In front of him, he held a cardboard sign that read "Save my dog." His eyes, dull with exhaustion and sadness, pleaded for help, yet the people walking past didn't even notice him. They rushed by, lost in their own busy worlds, oblivious to the quiet desperation in the boy's heart. Next to him, curled up on the cold concrete, lay his loyal dog Liam, whose fur was ragged, and whose body trembled from the cold and something worse, sickness. Liam had been Lucas' best friend for as long as he could remember. They had been through everything together. When Lucas' mother had died 2 months ago, Liam had been the only family he had left. The dog had been there for Lucas when he had no one else to turn to. Liam was all Lucas had, and now he was sick and Lucas didn't know what to do. He couldn't bear to see Liam suffer, but he didn't have the money to take him to the vet. Lucas couldn't even afford food for himself, let alone any treatments for Liam. Every day has been a struggle to survive. The streets had become their home, a cold and lonely place where people ignored them and passed by without a second glance. Lucas had tried to stay strong for Liam, but it was getting harder. "I'll take care of you, Liam," Lucas whispered, stroking the dog's rough, matted fur. "You're all I have left." The words didn't ease the ache in his heart, but he needed to say them to remind himself that he had to keep going. No matter what happened, he couldn't give up. Liam needed him. Lucas had to keep his promise. It was getting colder as the sun began to set. Lucas could feel the biting wind cutting through his thin jacket. The hunger in his stomach was relentless, gnawing at him, but he ignored it. He had to focus on Liam. The dog's breathing was shallow, and every now and then, he whimpered softly in his sleep. Lucas couldn't help but feel the weight of the world pressing down on him. He remembered how his mother had always told him to keep his head up, no matter what. "People can be cruel, Lucas," she had said, holding his hands tightly. "But don't let it change who you are." Now, sitting alone in the cold, those words felt far away, like they belonged to a different time, a different life. Liam let out another soft whimper, and Lucas' heart twisted in his chest. He couldn't stand seeing his dog like this. The world felt so cold and unforgiving. He tried to distract himself by focusing on the faint hope that tomorrow would be better. "Tomorrow will be better, Liam," he murmured, even though deep down, he didn't know if he believed it. But he couldn't give up. Not yet. Lucas leaned back against the wall, adjusting the cardboard that was supposed to serve as his bed. Liam lay beside him, resting his head on Lucas' lap. As Lucas looked around at the busy streets, he saw people laughing, talking, and enjoying their lives. He felt a pang of jealousy. People had everything he and Liam didn't. Warmth, food, comfort, all of it seemed so far out of reach. "Do you remember when we found you, Liam?" Lucas asked quietly, as if the dog could understand. "You were so little, lost in the snow. I knew you needed us just as much as we needed you." A faint smile crossed Lucas' face as he remembered the day they found Liam, but it quickly faded. He missed his mom so much. Her voice, her smile, the way she made everything seem okay even when things were hard. Now she was gone and it was just him and Liam. Liam lifted his tired eyes to look at Lucas, and for a moment, Lucas could almost believe the dog understood. He stroked Liam's head gently, whispering, "We'll make it, buddy. We'll get through this. I promise." But even as he said it, Lucas wasn't sure how. The city was a big, cold place and it seemed like no one cared. He was just another invisible kid with a sick dog, ignored by the world. But Lucas couldn't let Liam see how scared he was. He had to be strong for him. He couldn't give up. The night dragged on and Lucas lay awake, trying to ignore the gnawing hunger in his stomach and the cold that seeped into his bones. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing. He couldn't give up. Not for Liam. Not when his dog needed him so much. The morning came slowly, the pale light of dawn creeping into the alley where Lucas and Liam had spent the night. Lucas woke up with a stiff body, but the first thing he noticed was Liam. The dog was lying motionless beside him, his breathing shallow and labored. Panic surged through Lucas' chest as he knelt beside Liam, shaking him gently. "Liam? Liam, wake up." Lucas' voice trembled, fear rising in his throat. But Liam barely stirred. His dark eyes were glazed over and Lucas' heart sank. "No, please not now." He shook Liam again, more urgently this time, but the dog's body barely responded. Lucas' hands shook as he reached for the water bottle in his backpack. He poured a little into his palm and gently brought it to Liam's mouth, hoping the dog would drink. But Liam just turned his head away, too weak to even try. Tears stung Lucas' eyes, but he fought them back. He couldn't let himself fall apart. Not yet. Liam needed him. "I'm sorry, Liam," Lucas whispered, his voice breaking. I don't know what to do. I'll figure something out. I promise. He rummaged through his backpack looking for anything that might help. But there was nothing. No food. No money. Just a few scraps of paper and empty bottles. Lucas' heart felt heavy in his chest. What if Liam didn't make it? What if he couldn't save his best friend? The streets were cold and unfeeling. People hurried by, avoiding eye contact, too busy to even notice Lucas and Liam sitting there. Lucas felt invisible, as if he didn't exist. As if no one cared. He pulled his jacket tighter around himself, trying to keep the warmth close, but it didn't help. The cold was inside him, eating away at his hope. Liam's breathing became more labored, and Lucas couldn't just sit there anymore. He had to do something. He had to try. So, he stood up, carefully lifting Liam into his arms, even though his own legs felt like they might give out. He couldn't carry Liam much farther, but he had to try. He had to find someone who could help. Lucas walked through the busy streets, carrying Liam gently. People passed by, some glancing at him, but no one stopped. Lucas' arms ached and his legs were sore, but he kept walking, determined not to give up. He found a shady spot in a park and sat down, laying Liam carefully on the grass. The dog's eyes fluttered open, but he couldn't even lift his head. Lucas sat beside Liam, his heart heavy with worry. He looked around at the families playing in the park, the children laughing, their dogs running around happily. Lucas longed for that life, a life where he and Liam didn't have to fight for every meal and every breath. But that wasn't his reality. Not yet. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a piece of cardboard. He grabbed a marker and wrote in big, uneven letters, "Save my dog." It wasn't much, but it was all he had. He carried Liam to a busy sidewalk, sitting down with the sign beside him. People walked by, some glancing at the sign, but no one stopped. Lucas' heart sank. He couldn't stop shaking. He felt humiliated, exposed, like everyone was judging him. Hours passed. The sun began to set, and Lucas' hope started to fade. He leaned down, whispering to Liam, "I'm trying, buddy. I'm trying. Please don't give up." But deep inside, he wasn't sure how much longer either of them could wait. Just as he was about to lose hope, a man approached. Lucas looked up, startled, and his heart skipped a beat. It was Keanu Reeves, the actor he had only ever seen on TV. Lucas' breath caught in his throat as Keanu crouched in front of him, his eyes warm and concerned. "Hey kid," Keanu said gently. "What's going on here?" Lucas' voice caught in his throat, and for a moment he couldn't speak. He just looked at Keanu, unsure if he was dreaming. Finally he managed to whisper, "My dog, he's sick. I don't know what to do. I don't have any money to take him to the vet." Keanu looked at Liam, his expression turning serious. He reached out, his hand hovering above the dog's head before gently resting on his fur. "How long has he been like this?" he asked. "A few days," Lucas answered. "He won't eat. He can't walk. I don't know what to do." Keanu nodded, his face thoughtful. He pulled out his phone and made a quick call. "There's a vet not far from here," he said, standing up. "We're not leaving him like this. I'll cover whatever he needs." Lucas' eyes widened in disbelief. You'll do that?" he stammered. "Of course," Keanu said with a reassuring smile. "No one should have to watch their best friend suffer." He turned to Lucas. "Let's get Liam to the vet. You're not alone in this." For a moment, Lucas couldn't believe what he was hearing. Keanu Reeves, a man he had only seen on TV, was offering to help him. Help Liam. Lucas didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. Keanu helped Lucas lift Liam into his arms, and together they walked through the busy streets to the nearby veterinary clinic. Lucas couldn't stop shaking. Was this real? Was this really happening? When they reached the vet's office, the receptionist looked surprised to see Keanu Reeves, but she quickly ushered them in. The vet took Liam into the back for examination, and Keanu told Lucas not to worry. "They'll take care of him," he said, his voice calm and kind. Lucas sat in the waiting room, his mind racing. Keanu sat beside him, asking him about Liam. Lucas found himself telling Keanu everything. How they had found Liam in the snow when he was just a puppy, how Liam had been his mom's last gift to him before she passed away. Lucas told Keanu about the struggles they had faced since her death, about the streets and loneliness. It felt strange to talk to someone about all of this, but Keanu listened without judgment, his face soft with compassion. After what felt like hours, the vet came back with news. "Liam is stable for now," she said. "He's been through a lot, but with proper care he should recover." Lucas could hardly believe it. "You mean, he's going to be okay?" he whispered. The vet smiled gently. "He'll be okay." Relief washed over Lucas and tears filled his eyes. He turned to Keanu. "Thank you. Thank you so much," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Keanu smiled, placing a hand on Lucas' shoulder. No one should have to go through this alone. Liam is lucky to have you. Lucas nodded, wiping his eyes. I don't know how to thank you, he said. You already have, Keanu said with a warm smile. Now let's get Liam the care he needs. After a few more arrangements with the vet, Keanu made sure Liam had everything he needed. Lucas watched as the vet took Liam into the back for more treatment. He couldn't believe how quickly things had changed. One moment he felt like he was losing everything. Next he had found someone who cared. Keanu stayed by Lucas' side, asking questions about Liam's care and checking in with the vet. It wasn't long before Lucas was finally allowed to see Liam again. The dog was lying on a soft blanket, his eyes open. He looked better, more alert. Lucas felt his heart swell with relief. You're going to be okay, buddy, Lucas whispered, reaching out to stroke Liam's fur. Keanu stood by them, watching with a smile. He's lucky to have you, Keanu said softly. And for the first time in a long time, Lucas believed him. Things weren't perfect, but they weren't hopeless either. With Keanu's help, they had a chance. And Lucas promised himself he wouldn't let that chance slip away. Keanu didn't hesitate when he said, I'll take care of everything. Make sure, Liam, and you have everything you need. The vet smiled and said, You're doing something wonderful here. When Lucas finally looked away from Liam, Keanu walked up to him with a kind smile. How about this? Keanu said. Liam needs rest and care, and you need a safe place to stay. Why don't you come stay with me until Liam feels better? Lucas stared, surprised. Stay with you? He asked. Keanu nodded. Yeah, I've got space and I think both of you could use a break. No strings attached. Lucas wasn't sure what to think. He wasn't used to trusting strangers, especially ones who seemed so nice. But Keanu looked at him with kindness, and there was no trick in his eyes. Lucas took a deep breath. Okay, he said quietly. If it's really okay. Keanu smiled. It's more than okay. Let's get you both taken care of. That night, Lucas was in a car for the first time in years. Liam was wrapped in a soft blanket, resting in the back seat. Keanu drove calmly, and the lights from the city passed by. When they got to Keanu's house, Lucas' eyes opened wide. It wasn't too fancy, but it was much nicer than anything he'd ever seen. The lights shone from the windows, and inside was simple but beautiful. Keanu showed Lucas to a guest room with a soft bed, clean sheets, and even a little basket for Liam. Make yourself at home, Keanu said kindly. There's food in the kitchen if you're hungry, and if you need anything, just ask. Lucas couldn't believe it. He carefully placed Liam in the basket and sat on the bed. Mom wouldn't believe this, he whispered. For the first time in a long time, he felt a small hope inside him. The next morning, Lucas woke up to warmth he hadn't felt in months. The bed was soft, and the smell of fresh sheets was all around him. For a moment, he wondered if it was all a dream. But then he heard the soft sound of Liam moving in his basket. Lucas smiled and walked over to Liam. Good morning, buddy, he said softly, petting Liam's back. The door opened, and Keanu walked in with a tray of breakfast. Morning, Lucas, he said with a warm smile. I thought you and Liam might like some breakfast. Lucas' stomach growled, and he felt embarrassed. Thank you, he mumbled. Keanu placed a bowl of food for Liam on the floor. Liam sniffed it, then took a bite. Lucas' heart felt happy. He's eating, he said, feeling both relieved and amazed. Keanu nodded. He's strong just like you? Lucas looked at Keanu and asked, Why are you doing this? I mean, you don't even know me. Keanu sat down across from Lucas. Because I know what it's like to feel alone, to feel like the world is against you. I don't want anyone to go through that, especially not a kid. If I can help, why wouldn't I? Lucas stared at Keanu, unsure of how to respond. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. Keanu seemed to understand Lucas' hesitation. You don't have to trust me right away, he said. Just take it one day at a time. Lucas nodded, feeling a little better. The day passed in a blur. Lucas spent most of it taking care of Liam. Keanu encouraged him to relax and even offered to show him around the house. But Lucas didn't feel comfortable. It all seemed too different from the streets he was used to. That evening, Lucas sat in the living room with Liam beside him. Keanu noticed and set his book down. How's Liam? He asked. Better, Lucas said, feeling thankful. Thanks to you. Keanu smiled. It's a team effort. You've done the hardest part, keeping him alive when things were tough. Lucas looked down. I didn't know if I could. There were times I thought I might lose him. But you didn't, Keanu said. You kept fighting, and that's what matters. They sat quietly for a while. Then Keanu spoke again. Lucas, I want you to know something. You're safe here. You don't have to feel alone anymore. Lucas' throat tightened and he almost cried. He wasn't used to people being this kind without expecting something in return. "Thank you," he said quietly. Keanu smiled. "You're welcome." Later that night, Lucas lay in bed looking at Liam, who was asleep in his basket. For the first time in a long time, Lucas let himself feel a small spark of hope. He whispered to himself, "Maybe things can get better." As the days passed, Lucas settled into a new routine. He spent his mornings helping Liam get better, feeding him special food and taking him for short walks in the yard. The afternoons were quieter and Lucas wandered around the house, still feeling out of place. In the evenings, he found himself talking more with Keanu. They started with simple questions like how Liam was doing or what Lucas liked to eat. At first, Lucas gave short answers, but Keanu was patient, and over time, Lucas began to trust him more. One evening, Keanu smiled at Lucas. "You've got an amazing story," he said. Lucas looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "You've been through more than most people ever will, and you're still standing," Keanu explained. "You saved Liam's life when a lot of people would have given up. That takes strength." Lucas didn't know how to respond. "I didn't really have a choice," he said. "Liam is all I have. If I gave up on him, I'd be giving up on myself." "That's what makes your story amazing," Keanu said. "You didn't let the world beat you." Lucas wasn't sure he understood. "Why would anyone care about my story?" "I care," Keanu said gently. "And I think a lot of people would too. Your story could help others who feel alone just like you did." Lucas felt unsure but couldn't help thinking about it. The next day, Keanu gave Lucas a notebook. "For when you're ready," Keanu said. Lucas took the notebook and ran his fingers over the cover. He wasn't sure if he'd ever be ready to write, but it meant something to know that someone believed in him. That evening, Lucas opened the notebook for the first time. He stared at the blank page, unsure where to start. Slowly, he began to write about the day he and his mom found Liam, how they took him home, and how Liam became part of their small family. Writing wasn't easy, but Lucas kept going. For the first time in months, he felt a spark of purpose. The next day, Lucas showed Keanu the pages. Keanu's face lit up. "This is incredible, Lucas," he said. "You have a way with words." Lucas felt a little embarrassed but also proud. "It's just what happened," he said. "And that's what makes it so powerful," Keanu replied. "People will connect with your real story. It could help so many." Over the next few days, Keanu helped Lucas shape his story, encouraging him to talk not just about the hard parts but also about the love and hope that had kept him going. It wasn't easy, but with every page, Lucas started to open up more. One evening, as they looked at Lucas' story together, Keanu smiled. "You're not just surviving anymore, Lucas. You're starting to live." Those words stayed with Lucas. For so long, he had only been focused on surviving. Now, he was starting to see a future where he and Liam weren't just getting by but thriving. A week later, Keanu called Lucas into the living room. On the coffee table was a laptop, and the screen showed a web page titled Lucas and Liam, a story of an unbreakable bond. There was a picture of Lucas and Liam, taken just a few days before, with a story underneath. Lucas' heart raced. "This is about us?" he asked, amazed. Keanu nodded. "I've been working on this with some friends. We're going to launch a campaign to raise awareness and help kids like you and animals like Liam. We'll raise funds for shelters, vet care, and programs to support homeless children." Lucas' breath caught. "You're serious?" "Completely," Keanu said with a warm smile. "Your story is the centerpiece, Lucas. You and Liam show that love and perseverance can make all the difference." Lucas stared at the screen, feeling proud, scared, and hopeful all at once. "Do you really think this could help people?" he asked. "I know it will," Keanu said confidently. "But only if you're ready. This is your story, Lucas. You get to decide how it's told." Lucas took a deep breath. "I'm ready." The campaign launched the next week. Keanu's friends helped organize a small event at a community center. Lucas and Liam were the guests of honor. Posters with their faces covered the walls, and a projector showed pictures and parts of Lucas' story. Lucas stood nervously at the edge of the room, holding a microphone while Liam sat by his side, looking calm. Keanu placed a hand on Lucas' shoulder and whispered, "You've got this. Just speak from your heart." Taking a deep breath, Lucas stepped forward, ready to share his story. Lucas stepped forward and the room became quiet. The young boy began to speak. "2 months ago, I was sitting on the sidewalk with Liam, holding a sign that said, 'Save my dog.' I didn't think anyone would notice us, but someone did." Lucas looked at Keanu, who gave him an encouraging nod. Lucas continued, his voice getting steadier as he spoke. "Liam was my best friend. He still is. He's all I had left after losing my mom. I couldn't imagine life without him. So, I did everything I could to keep him alive. And then, someone helped us. Lucas looked around the room, his eyes meeting the eyes of strangers who had come to hear his story. I didn't think I had anything to offer. I thought I was just trying to survive. But now I realize we all have something to give. And if my story can help someone else, another kid, another dog, then it's worth sharing. The room erupted in applause. The sound washed over Lucas like a warm wave. Liam barked once as if joining in the celebration. Lucas looked down at his loyal dog and smiled. He felt a pride he hadn't known in a long time. That night, back at Keanu's house, Lucas sat on the couch with his notebook on his lap. Keanu joined him, carrying 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "You were amazing tonight," Keanu said, handing him a mug. Lucas smiled shyly. "I was scared, but it felt good, like I could really do something." "You already are," Keanu said. "And this is just the beginning." Lucas sipped his drink. Liam curled up beside him, his head resting on Lucas' knee. For the first time, Lucas didn't just see a future for himself. He saw a future where he and Liam could help others, just as they had been helped. And for the first time he believed it was possible. The morning sun poured through the big windows of Keanu's kitchen, filling the room with warm light. Lucas sat at the table, flipping through the pages of his notebook. Liam lay by his feet, his fur glossy and eyes alert, a far cry from the frail dog he had carried just weeks ago. Lucas reached down to scratch Liam behind the ears and smiled faintly. Keanu walked into the room holding a mug of coffee. "You're up early," he said, nodding toward the notebook. "More writing?" "Just going over what we talked about at the fundraiser," Lucas replied. "It still feels strange, like this isn't really my life." Keanu chuckled softly and sat across from him. "That's because you've been running on survival mode for so long. Now you're starting to live. It takes some getting used to." Lucas looked at him, the words sinking in. He had spent so much of his life focused on getting through each day that he hadn't stopped to think about what came next. But now, for the first time, he had choices. "A future?" Lucas said hesitantly. "I've been thinking, maybe I could go back to school. I mean, if that's possible." Keanu's face lit up with a smile. "It's more than possible, Lucas. It's a great idea. Education opens doors, and I have no doubt you'll do amazing." "But I've been out for so long," Lucas admitted, his voice filled with uncertainty. "What if I can't catch up? What if I don't fit in?" Keanu leaned forward, his tone reassuring. "You've already overcome so much. Catching up in school will be a challenge, sure, but it's nothing compared to what you've been through. And as for fitting in, just be yourself. You've got more strength and heart than most people I've ever met." Lucas nodded slowly, his determination growing. "Okay, let's do it." The first day back at school was both terrifying and exciting for Lucas. Keanu had enrolled him in a local middle school and arranged for tutoring to help him catch up on the subjects he had missed. Lucas walked through the school gates with Liam by his side. The dog had been granted special permission to accompany Lucas for emotional support. The states were inevitable. Kids whispered as Lucas passed by, their eyes darting between him and Liam. Lucas kept his head high, drawing strength from the reassuring presence of his loyal companion. By lunchtime, the initial curiosity had faded. A girl around his age approached him in the cafeteria. "Hey," she said, smiling. "I'm Maya. Is that your dog?" Lucas nodded. "Yeah, his name's Liam." Maya crouched down to pet Liam. "He's awesome," she said. "I saw you at that fundraiser last week. Your story was incredible." Lucas felt embarrassed but managed a small smile. "Thanks. It was scary to talk in front of everyone." "You did great," Maya said, sitting down across from him. "If you need help getting around here, just let me know. This place can be a maze." Lucas' smile widened. "Thanks. I might take you up on that." By the end of the day, Lucas felt a small sense of belonging, a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time. Liam seemed to sense it too. His energy was brighter as they walked home together. That evening, Lucas sat in Keanu's study, flipping through a book Keanu had lent him about creative writing. "I didn't know you liked this stuff," Keanu said as he entered with a grin on his face. "I didn't either," Lucas admitted. "But it's kind of cool learning how to tell stories better." Keanu sat beside him. "You've got a gift, Lucas. I think you could turn your writing into something big. A book, maybe." Lucas' eyes widened. "A book? You really think so?" "I know so," Keanu said firmly. "Your story deserves to be told, and I think you're the perfect person to tell it." The idea both thrilled and scared Lucas. But as he sat there, surrounded by books and with Liam resting at his feet, he realized that he finally had the chance to dream. He could imagine a life beyond survival. The next few weeks were busy. Lucas juggled school, writing, and attending events for the campaign he and Keanu had started. Each step brought new challenges but also new victories. Liam became a beloved figure at school, and Lucas found himself growing more confident with each passing day. One afternoon, after a successful fundraiser, Lucas and Keanu sat in the backyard, watching Liam chase a ball across the grass. Lucas turned to Keanu, his face thoughtful. "I never thought I'd have this," he said. "A chance to actually live, you know? Not just survive." Keanu looked at him, his gaze steady. "You earned this, Lucas. Everything you've been through has made you who you are. And who you are is someone who can do amazing things." Lucas smiled, feeling the weight of his past become lighter than ever. For the first time, he wasn't just looking forward to tomorrow. He was ready to embrace it. The auditorium buzzed with quiet chatter as the crowd settled into their seats. A large screen at the front displayed an image of Lucas and Liam, both looking happier and healthier than they had months ago. Below the photo, bold letters read, "A Journey of Resilience." Backstage, Lucas paced nervously, gripping the microphone he would soon be holding in front of hundreds of people. Liam sat calmly at his side, his presence a steadying force. Lucas crouched down to stroke Liam's fur, drawing comfort from their bond. "You've got this," Keanu said, appearing behind him with an encouraging smile. He rested a hand on Lucas' shoulder. "Just speak from your heart. That's what people connect with." Lucas nodded, swallowing hard. The nerves hadn't gone away, but Keanu's support gave him the courage to face them. Moments later, the host announced Lucas' name, and the applause from the audience felt both overwhelming and uplifting. Lucas stepped onto the stage, Liam following at his side. The crowd's applause grew louder as Lucas reached the center. He took a deep breath before beginning. "Hi," he said, his voice shaky but growing steadier with each word. "My name is Lucas and this is Liam. A few months ago we were living on the streets and I didn't think anyone cared about us. I didn't think anyone would notice us at all." He paused, glancing down at Liam, who wagged his tail as if encouraging him to continue. Lucas smiled faintly and looked back at the crowd. But someone did notice. Someone stopped and helped us when we needed it most. And that small act of kindness changed everything. As Lucas spoke, he shared his story with raw honesty, how he and Liam had struggled to survive, how they had found hope through the kindness of a stranger, and how their journey had led to the campaign they had started to help others. "I thought our story didn't matter," Lucas said, his voice steady and filled with conviction. "But now I know that every story matters. And if sharing ours can inspire others to help, to care, then it's worth it." The crowd erupted into applause as Lucas finished. He glanced back toward the wings where Keanu stood, clapping and smiling proudly. Lucas felt a swell of pride and gratitude that he couldn't quite put into words. After the event, Lucas and Liam mingled with the attendees. Many people stopped to shake Lucas' hand, praise his courage, and thank him for sharing his story. Donations poured in for the campaign, and Lucas felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. For the first time, he wasn't just surviving. He was making a difference. Later that evening, back at Keanu's house, Lucas sat on the couch with Liam sprawled across his lap. Keanu joined him, carrying 2 mugs of hot tea. "You were incredible tonight," Keanu said, handing Lucas a mug. "The way you spoke, it was powerful." Lucas sipped the tea, his face thoughtful. "It felt good," he admitted, "to know that our story might help someone else." "You're doing more than you ever imagined," Keanu said, his voice filled with warmth. "And this is just the beginning." The weeks that followed were a blur of activity. Lucas became the face of the campaign, attending events, speaking at schools, and sharing his story in interviews. Each time he grew more confident, his voice stronger as he realized the impact he was making. Liam, too, became a beloved figure. His story of resilience touched hearts everywhere, and his playful, loyal nature won over everyone he met. Together, Lucas and Liam symbolizes hope, proving that love and determination could overcome even the toughest challenges. One day, as Lucas and Keanu reviewed plans for the next campaign event, Lucas set down his notebook and looked at Keanu. "Do you think this is what my mom would have wanted?" he asked quietly. Keanu met his gaze, his expression thoughtful. "I think she'd be incredibly proud of you," he said. "You're helping people, Lucas. You're creating something meaningful out of everything you've been through. That's a legacy anyone would be proud of." Lucas nodded, a small smile on his lips. He looked down at Liam, who rested his head on Lucas' knee, his eyes filled with trust. "I still can't believe we're here," Lucas said softly. "That this is our life now." "You earned this," Keanu said. "Every step of the way. You fought for it. And now you're not just living, you're inspiring others to do the same." As the sun set outside, Casting a golden glow across the room, Lucas felt a deep sense of gratitude. His journey had been long and painful, but it had brought him here, a place where he and Liam weren't just surviving but thriving. Together, they had found a purpose, and they were determined to use it to make the world a better place. The air was crisp as Lucas walked down a familiar sidewalk, his footsteps steady and purposeful. Beside him, Liam trotted happily, his tail wagging. Lucas paused at a corner and looked around, his heart tightening as memories flooded back. This was the spot where he had once sat with a crumpled sign reading, "Save my dog," silently begging for someone to notice him. It felt like a lifetime ago. Hard to believe, huh? Lucas murmured to Liam, crouching down to stroke his fur. Liam leaned into Lucas' hand, his eyes shining with loyalty. "We've come so far," Lucas said. The busy city moved around them. People hurried past, not noticing. But Lucas smiled faintly, knowing that his presence here now carried a much different purpose. Today he wasn't the boy begging for help. He was a man giving back. A short walk later, Lucas arrived at the community center, where a large banner hung across the entrance. "Hope for All, Annual Lucas and Liam Foundation Fundraiser." Inside, the room buzzed with activity. Volunteers were setting up tables, arranging decorations, and preparing for the evening's event. Lucas' heart swelled with pride as he walked through the crowd. "Hey Lucas," a familiar voice called. Keanu appeared, a broad smile on his face. Despite the silver streaks in his hair, his energy and warmth were unchanged. "Ready for tonight?" Keanu asked, pulling Lucas into a brief hug. "As ready as I'll ever be," Lucas grinned. Together they walked through the venue, checking the final preparations. Posters along the walls showcased stories of children and animals whose lives had been transformed by the foundation's work. Lucas paused in front of one poster, showing a young boy holding a rescued puppy. His face beamed with joy. "That was us," Lucas said softly, his voice filled with emotion. "And now you're giving that chance to so many others," Keanu said proudly. "This is your legacy, Lucas. Yours and Liam's." The evening began and guests poured into the venue. Their laughter and conversation filled the air with life. Lucas mingled with the crowd, Liam by his side, greeting old friends and supporters of the foundation. Each conversation reminded him of the journey that had brought him here, from the hopelessness of the streets to the fulfillment of building something that truly mattered. When it was time for the keynote speech, Lucas stood on the stage. The spotlight cast a warm glow on him, and Liam sat faithfully at his feet, his presence as reassuring as ever. The crowd quieted, their attention focused on Lucas as he began to speak. "Good evening, everyone," he said, his voice steady and clear. "I want to thank you all for being here tonight. This event isn't just about raising funds. It's about celebrating the power of kindness and resilience." He paused, glancing down at Liam, who wagged his tail. "Years ago, Liam and I were sitting on a sidewalk just a few blocks from here. We had nothing, not even hope. But then one person stopped. One person cared. And that changed everything." Lucas took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the room. That act of kindness didn't just save Liam. It saved me too. And it taught me something I carry with me every day. That even the smallest gesture can change a life. The audience was silent, hanging on his every word. "Today, thanks to all of you, the Lucas and Liam Foundation has helped hundreds of kids and animals find the support they need to survive, and more importantly, to thrive. None of this would be possible without your generosity and belief in what we're doing." As the applause erupted, Lucas stepped back, his heart full. He looked at Keanu, standing at the edge of the stage, clapping with pride. Their eyes met, and Lucas gave a small nod of gratitude. Later that night, Lucas and Keanu sat outside the venue. The city was quiet now, the event winding down. Liam lay beside them, his head resting on Lucas' lap. The stars twinkled above, casting a serene glow over the moment. "Do you ever think about that day?" Lucas asked, breaking the comfortable silence. "The day you stopped?" "All the time," Keanu replied thoughtfully. "It reminds me how important it is to pay attention. To see the people and the stories others overlook." Lucas smiled, stroking Liam's fur. "I don't know where I'd be if you hadn't stopped. And I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't," Keanu said with a chuckle. "You've taught me just as much as I've taught you, Lucas. Maybe more." They sat there in the quiet, letting the weight of everything sink in. Lucas didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. He had a purpose now. He wasn't just surviving. He was living, making a difference, and inspiring others to do the same. And with Liam by his side, he knew that no matter where the road took him, they would face it together. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories. I'll see you in the next video.